Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tuning into something really essential for you, the often missed messages your own body might be sending you.
Exactly. Messages that can have a surprisingly deep impact on your well-being, day in and day out.
And we're going to explore how that pain you might be pushing aside, maybe physical, maybe emotional, or kind of somewhere in between.
Yeah, how it can really shape your whole experience. It's like learning to understand a language your body is constantly speaking directly to you.
And it's not just those sharp, obvious pains we're focusing on, is it?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Think about those subtle, nagging sensations you might just live with.
Like that persistent tension in your shoulders, maybe?
Or a kind of emotional flatness that sometimes settles in, or just, I don't know, a general feeling of being slightly off.
Right. And these could be your body's very real attempts to, well, connect with you, to tell you something important.
Consider those experiences you yourself might recognize. That subtle tightening maybe, right between your shoulder blades perhaps, when you're navigating a demanding workday. Or the way your jaw might clench without you even realizing it when certain topics come up.
Yeah, or that just lingering fatigue that sticks around even after you think you've had enough rest. These aren't random. They're really not.
And that's really the mission of this deep dive for you, isn't it? To help you start to understand these signals.
To recognize why they might be significant.
And maybe to begin a new kind of listening, a deeper conversation with your own body.
So let's start by considering that those physical sensations you experience, they aren't just happening arbitrarily. They can be really powerful messengers.
Messengers from where, though?
Well, often originating from parts of yourself that, for various reasons, you might have learned to silence or just overlook. Think for a moment about that subtle tension you sometimes feel between your shoulder blades, maybe. Or that almost automatic tightening in your jaw.
Or maybe even a specific sensation in your throat, like words are trying to get out but feel stuck.
Exactly. These aren't just physical annoyances, they mean something. It's so insightful to consider this from a Gestalt therapy perspective, seeing them as actual attempts at contact.
Yeah, your body, with its own inherent wisdom, is reaching out. It's trying to get your attention, seeking acknowledgement.
Yet, what's our often ingrained tendency, especially in our fast-paced lives? We just brush these things aside, don't we?
We do. It's just stress, you might tell yourself.
Or, I'm probably just tired, nothing to really worry about.
We see this pattern so clearly. Take the example of Maria. She came in with this chronic neck pain that just wasn't responding to physical treatments.
Okay.
Professionally, she was, bright, engaged, but as she talked about her boss, who consistently undermined her confidence, a subtle but really significant pattern emerged.
What kind of pattern?
Almost every time she mentioned him, her left shoulder would lift just a tiny fraction, and her voice, it would take on this slightly higher, more strained tone.
Wow. It was as if her body was physically reacting to the emotional experience of being belittled.
Precisely, even if consciously she was trying to maintain a composed demeanor.
That involuntary shoulder movement, that subtle shift in her voice, these sound like classic indicators of what you call unfinished business.
Exactly. Those emotions and experiences that haven't been fully processed or expressed in a healthy way, they get stuck.
And what's really key here is that Maria wasn't initially even aware of these physical signals, right?
Not at all. She, like so many of us, had developed ways to kind of not fully feel the impact of that dynamic with her boss.
So when it was pointed out,
Well, when her therapist gently brought these physical cues to her attention, her first reaction was dismissal. Oh, it's nothing, just my usual tension, she'd say, maybe with a nervous laugh.
but the real shift for Maria began when she started to actually stay with those bodily sensations.
Yes. To truly notice them without immediately trying to analyze them or explain them away or make them stop.
It wasn't about seeking a quick fix then.
No, it was about allowing herself to just experience what her body was trying to communicate.
And this leads us to a really fundamental understanding, doesn't it? Your body truly does keep a record. It really does. Every emotion you might suppress, every boundary that gets crossed without being addressed, every genuine response you hold back, it all gets stored within you.
Wilhelm Reich's concept of body armor comes to mind here.
Absolutely. It beautifully describes these muscular tensions that develop as a form of protection against emotional pain.
And it's insightful to think of it not just as a fleeting reaction, but as something that can become, well, almost permanent.
Yeah, a more or less permanent part of your physical being, shaping not only how you hold yourself physically, but also your psychological landscape.
Your habitual ways of thinking, feeling, interacting.
All of it. So, Think for a moment about your own experiences. When have you consciously pushed down feelings like anger or sadness or even fear? Consider how our society often conditions us to view vulnerability as, something negative, something to avoid showing.
You learn to be strong, keep going, don't dwell on the difficult stuff. Right. And here's where it gets really interesting and often challenging. These very attempts to shield yourself from pain can actually lead to you carrying it around constantly.
So the defenses become the burden.
In a way, yes. The defenses you put up to protect yourself can, over time, become a significant burden themselves, manifesting as those physical symptoms we've been discussing.
Or perhaps it's a sense of emotional numbness, a feeling of being somewhat disconnected.
Exactly. Disconnected from your own feelings, maybe from others around you.
So in this moment, as you are listening, I really encourage you to just notice your own reactions. Is there any subtle sense of resistance maybe arising within you?
Yeah, perhaps a slight tightening in your shoulders, your jaw, anywhere else. Maybe even a fleeting urge to, I don't know, switch this off, distract yourself.
These very reactions can be valuable pieces of information for you, can't they?
Incredibly valuable. They can point to areas where your system might still be holding on, still trying to protect something sensitive underneath.
And from a Gestalt perspective, this act of simply noticing, this awareness, it isn't about intellectualizing or trying to figure things out logically.
No, it's a direct, embodied experience of what's happening for you in this present moment, right here, right now.
It's about observing without the immediate need to judge it, label it, or try to fix it.
Can you allow yourself to just be present with whatever might be arising, even if it feels a little uncomfortable, or doesn't immediately make logical sense?
Because the simple act of being present with yourself can create a real shift.
It really can. It's like opening a window in a room that has been closed up for too long.
The fresh air might feel a little different at first.
Yeah, but it begins to clear away the stagnant energy. As you start to acknowledge these messages your body is sending you, no matter how subtle or even confusing they might seem.
You're initiating a process of integration.
That's it. Those parts of yourself that have felt perhaps exiled or ignored can begin to find their way back, to become part of a more cohesive whole.
Let's think back to Maria again. Her breakthrough wasn't about trying to eliminate her neck tension through physical means alone.
Right. Although those might have offered some temporary relief, the real turning point came through her willingness to explore the story held within that tension.
The underlying feelings of anger and powerlessness related to her boss.
Exactly. And as she began to acknowledge and, importantly, express those feelings, to set clearer boundaries in her professional life.
The pain gradually diminished.
It did. It wasn't a matter of being fixed, not in a mechanical sense. It was more that the internal conflict found a way towards resolution.
And it's so important for you, the listener, to understand that your own journey in becoming aware of your body's language will be unique, completely unique to you.
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all answer, no prescribed timeline. What truly matters is your own willingness to show up for yourself.
To meet yourself exactly where you are right now.
And to listen deeply to the often unspoken wisdom of your body, trusting that it holds insights you may not yet be consciously aware of.
So, as we continue this exploration, maybe take another moment for yourself right now. Just notice how you're sitting, the points of contact your body has with your surroundings.
Feel the rhythm of your breath. Maybe gently scan through your body, noticing any sensations without judgment.
Remember, there's no need to change anything, just observe with curiosity.
And as you do that, let's consider what happens when you routinely interrupt the natural flow of your own experience.
Okay.
In Gestalt therapy, we see human experience as this continuous cycle, a natural movement between making contact with something meaningful to you.
And then withdrawing to integrate that experience, like breathing in and out.
Kind of like that, yeah. A natural rhythm of expansion and contraction. Every emotion, every sensation has its own natural life cycle.
Moving from an initial feeling.
Through you becoming aware of it, your body mobilizing energy around it, perhaps leading to you taking some kind of action.
And finally reaching a sense of completion or closure.
Right. And when this cycle completes itself naturally, you experience a feeling of resolution, of wholeness. Things feel settled.
But it's when you interfere with this natural flow, when you block or cut short these natural stages, that's when difficulties can arise.
That's often where the trouble starts. Think about a time when you were deeply hurt by something someone said or did. A cutting remark maybe, or a rejection.
Okay.
In that moment of vulnerability, did you allow yourself to fully feel the sting, the sadness, the anger, whatever was there?
Or Did something within you immediately kick in to try and manage that feeling?
Yeah, maybe your mind started racing to rationalize their behavior, to tell yourself it wasn't a big
Oh, they
deal.
didn't mean it. Or, I'm overreacting.
Right. Or maybe your body instinctively tensed up, bracing for more pain or preparing to defend yourself somehow. This is often where the interruption of that natural cycle begins.
And these protective mechanisms, which you call creative adjustments
Hmm.
in Gestalt therapy, they're really interesting to consider in your own life.
They really are. They often develop as brilliant survival strategies, especially in childhood when you might have lacked the resources to cope with overwhelming situations.
Can you give an example?
Sure, a child who learns to suppress their tears to avoid being shamed by a caregiver. Well, that's a very creative adjustment to their environment. It helps them survive that situation.
Or a child who learns that expressing anger leads to negative consequences might develop a lifelong pattern of always trying to please others.
Exactly. Even at their own expense. These adaptations were often ingenious solutions back then in those early environments.
But the challenge is that they can become rigid, unconscious patterns as an adult.
Right. Even when the original circumstances no longer apply to your current life, they become habits you're not even aware of.
So take a moment now, if you're listening, to reflect on your own creative adjustments. What tends to happen in your body when you encounter emotional discomfort?
Do your shoulders instinctively rise up towards your ears, almost like you're bracing for impact?
Does your breathing become shallow and constricted?
Maybe your hands clench without you even noticing, or your jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. These are the kinds of subtle physical responses we're talking about.
And these physical responses aren't just random quirks, are they?
Not at all. They're often part of a deeply ingrained system designed to protect you from perceived emotional danger. But the thing is, over time,
These temporary protective measures can solidify into chronic holding patterns.
yes, trapping not just muscle tension, but also the very unexpressed emotions they were initially meant to shield you from.
And this brings us right back to that idea of unfinished business.
It does. When you consistently cut off your authentic responses, those tears you didn't cry, the boundaries you didn't assert, maybe the joy you suppressed because it felt unsafe.
You create these energetic knots within yourself.
Exactly, and these incomplete experiences don't just disappear into thin air, they tend to linger in your psyche.
Often manifesting in very physical ways.
Right. That anger you might have swallowed during a tense argument last week could very well be contributing to that persistent tightness you feel in your jaw.
Or the sadness you pushed aside after a significant loss might be contributing to a heavy feeling you carry in your chest.
It's fascinating how these defenses can operate on so many levels within you simultaneously.
Intellectually, you might rationalize your pain away, finding logical explanations for everything.
Emotionally, you might numb yourself through various distractions, endless scrolling, overworking, maybe even using substances to avoid feeling.
And physically, as we've been discussing, you might develop these chronic tensions that act as barriers against fully experiencing your emotions.
This multi-layered system of protection can become so efficient within you.
That you might even lose touch with how disconnected you've become from your own genuine feelings, from your authentic self.
Yeah, you might even start to believe that this defended state is just your normal, who you are.
But here's a really important insight for you listening. While these defenses are trying to protect you in some way, they can also inadvertently keep you stuck.
Stuck in cycles of suffering, yeah. The more you try to avoid certain feelings, the more power they tend to gain over you.
It's like that analogy of trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Exactly. The harder you push it down, the stronger the force with which it wants to pop back up to the surface.
Similarly, those suppressed emotions don't just vanish.
No, they often find other ways to demand your attention, perhaps through those physical symptoms we've talked about.
Or through recurring patterns in your relationships that you can't quite understand.
Or even through self-sabotaging behaviors that leave you feeling frustrated and confused.
And again, I encourage you listening, just notice if you're experiencing any resistance within yourself right now as you hear these ideas.
Are you maybe finding yourself wanting to disagree with something? To find exceptions, to explain why your defenses are somehow different or more necessary.
That very reaction can be really valuable information for you.
Incredibly valuable. Resistance isn't something to be judged or pushed away. In Gestalt therapy, we actually see it as a really significant doorway.
A doorway to deeper self-understanding.
Exactly. Beneath every but, or however, there's often another layer of protection, another part of your experience that's waiting to be explored.
Explored with curiosity and a sense of gentle compassion for yourself.
Let's consider another example to illustrate this. We worked with someone named James who suffered from really debilitating migraines.
Okay.
Despite thorough medical investigations, doctors couldn't find any underlying physical cause. Yet these migraines would recur, often after situations that felt emotionally charged for him.
And during your sessions?
A noticeable pattern emerged. Whenever James started to talk about his own needs or desires, his voice would almost drop to a whisper, sometimes becoming nearly inaudible.
Really?
Yeah, and he would often unconsciously bring his hands up to cover his mouth, as if physically trying to stop himself from speaking.
Wow. That's quite a physical manifestation.
It is. And through careful, gentle exploration, James began to connect this physical reaction with a deeply ingrained belief
A belief that.
that expressing his own needs would inevitably lead to rejection or criticism. As a child, his attempts to ask for attention or support had often been met with negativity or dismissal.
So he learned, very effectively it sounds like, to silence himself.
He did, to prioritize the needs and expectations of others above his own.
And in many ways, this pattern probably served him in certain aspects of his life, at least on the surface.
Oh, absolutely. He became very skilled at anticipating what others wanted, successful professionally, but it came at a significant cost to his own well-being.
His body literally seemed to become a container.
For all the unexpressed words, all the unacknowledged needs that he had been holding back for so long.
Yeah. So what was transformative for James?
It was when he started to experiment in small, manageable ways with expressing himself more directly. First within the safe space of our sessions.
And then gradually in his daily interactions.
Exactly. And as he began to do this, something quite remarkable started to happen. The migraines didn't just disappear overnight, of course.
But their intensity and frequency began to lessen.
Significantly. And even more importantly, he started to experience moments of genuine connection with himself and with others. A feeling of authenticity that had been missing.
He began to learn that honoring his own needs wasn't selfish.
No, it was actually essential for his overall well-being and for healthier relationships.
And just as James's particular patterns of avoiding discomfort were unique to him, your own ways, listening now, of navigating challenging emotions will also be distinct to you.
Absolutely. Maybe you tend to intellectualize your feelings, turning them into abstract concepts rather than feeling them directly in your body.
Or perhaps you have a tendency to project your own feelings onto other people, seeing in them what you might be unwilling to acknowledge in yourself.
Some people might use humor, as a way to deflect from painful or uncomfortable topics.
While others might immerse themselves in caretaking roles, constantly focusing on others' needs as a way to avoid their own inner turmoil.
The crucial first step for you is to begin noticing these tendencies in yourself, and to do so without harsh self-judgment. These are simply patterns you've developed.
And it's so important to remember, the goal here isn't to try and completely eliminate these protective mechanisms overnight.
No, that might feel overwhelming, maybe even unsafe for you. The aim, instead, is to develop a more conscious relationship with them.
To become aware of when these defenses are being activated within you.
And to have more choice in the moment. Choice about whether to fully engage them or perhaps to pause and gently explore what might be happening underneath the surface.
Because, as we've discussed, behind every defense mechanism lies a more vulnerable, authentic part of yourself.
That is longing for acknowledgement and expression, yes.
So here's a small experiment you might consider trying in your own life.
Okay.
The next time you become aware of a physical tension in your body, maybe it's that tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a clenching in your jaw, just pause for a moment.
Instead of immediately trying to relax it or massage it or make it go away,
Simply stay with the sensation. Notice its specific qualities. Is it sharp or dull, expanding or contracting?
are there any particular thoughts, images, or emotions that seem to arise in connection with this physical sensation?
Even this brief act of simply being present with the sensation without trying to change it, that can begin to create new pathways.
It can. New pathways in your brain, allowing these perhaps suppressed experiences to surface in a more manageable and safer way for you.
And please do remember that this process of healing and becoming more deeply aware of yourself is rarely a perfectly straight line.
Oh, definitely not. There will be moments of real insight and breakthrough for you. Absolutely.
And there will also be times when you might feel like you're stuck, or even taking a step backward.
That's a completely normal and natural part of the journey. The most important thing is to maintain that gentle, consistent presence with yourself.
to keep showing up for yourself with curiosity.
And to trust in the unfolding process, however it happens for you.
In Gestalt therapy, you often talk about the fertile void. Right?
Yes, the fertile void. That sometimes uncomfortable and uncertain space that can exist between letting go of old, familiar patterns.
And not yet knowing exactly what will replace them.
It can feel like a time of uncertainty, even a little frightening perhaps, to dwell in this unknown territory.
But it's precisely within this fertile void
That real and lasting transformation can occur for you. It's like a seed needing to break open and move through the darkness before it can sprout and reach for the light.
So significant change often requires you to move through those protective layers to connect with something more authentic within.
Something more vital, yes.
Perhaps you're starting to see now, listening, how those persistent physical symptoms you might have been experiencing, the recurring headaches, the chronic back pain, that feeling of constant fatigue.
They aren't just random ailments to be cured or ignored. They can actually be really important, meaningful messages from your body.
Signaling to you where you might have been interrupting your natural flow of being.
Exactly. Where you might have been substituting an adapted or protected version of yourself for your true, authentic self.
And as you continue to explore these patterns within yourself, remember to approach yourself with a deep sense of compassion.
So important. Compassion and understanding. Your defenses, those creative adjustments you've developed over the years, they all came into being for very good reasons.
They were your best attempts at self-preservation in challenging or overwhelming situations you faced.
Right. Now, as you cultivate greater awareness, you have the opportunity to make different choices.
Not out of self-criticism or judgment.
No, but from a place of loving presence and self-acceptance. You can begin to learn to honor your own boundaries more effectively, maybe.
To express your needs and feelings more authentically.
And to gently embrace your vulnerabilities without shame or fear.
This journey you're on, it isn't about trying to become some entirely new or different person.
Not at all. It's more about the beautiful process of rediscovering who you truly are underneath all those layers of protection you've built up.
It's about reclaiming those lost or forgotten pieces of yourself.
And gradually integrating them into a more complete, authentic, and whole way of being in the world.
The pain you've been carrying isn't a life sentence. It's actually a powerful invitation.
A profound call to deeper self-awareness, understanding, and ultimately to healing.
Yes. And as you're listening to these ideas, I encourage you, again, just notice if you're sensing any subtle shifts in your perspective.
Any small openings where new possibilities might be starting to emerge for you.
Trust that whatever is arising within you right now, whether it's a feeling of resonance, a moment of understanding, or even a flicker of resistance,
is exactly what needs to be happening for you in this moment. You are not alone in this exploration.
Countless others are on similar paths of waking up to themselves and their own inner wisdom.
And while the journey may have its unexpected twists and turns, each step you take with intention and awareness brings you closer.
Closer to greater freedom, authenticity, and a deeper connection with yourself.
So as we begin to bring this deep dive towards a close, let's just take a moment to reflect on what we've explored together.
We've talked about how those often ignored physical sensations and emotional states can be really important messages from your body. Attempts at contact.
Ways that perhaps silenced parts of yourself are seeking to be acknowledged, understood, and heard by you.
And we've considered the natural cycle of human experience that flow between connecting and withdrawing.
And how interrupting that natural rhythm through protective mechanisms or creative adjustments can lead to what we call unfinished business.
Often manifesting in various ways: physical symptoms, emotional patterns, relationship dynamics.
And the key takeaway here for you is the incredible power of awareness, that gentle, non-judgmental presence with your current experience.
As the very first and ongoing step towards integration, healing, and a more authentic way of being.
So as you move forward from this point in your day, we invite you to carry this sense of awareness with you.
Pay closer attention to those subtle cues your body might be offering you. See if you can approach them with curiosity and openness.
Rather than immediate dismissal or judgment.
Consider those small invitations we offered you.
The practice of regular, gentle body check-ins. The willingness to honor your own boundaries in small, manageable ways.
The courage to gently embrace your vulnerabilities.
And the ongoing patience to trust the unfolding process of your own unique healing journey. And remember, seeking support when you need it.
From trusted sources, therapy, friends, communities. It's a sign of strength and self-awareness. not weakness.
Absolutely. And as you engage with these practices in your own way, in your own time, you might just find that the pain you've been carrying
In whatever form it takes for you.
begins to transform. That persistent backache might, over time, become a reminder of your resilience, maybe.
That familiar lump in your throat might soften into a feeling of tender vulnerability.
These aren't magical cures we're talking about, are they?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They're more like the natural outcomes of a consistent and compassionate practice of self-awareness and acceptance of your whole self.
And it's important for you to remember that as you gently release old burdens and patterns that no longer serve you,
You might naturally find yourself encountering new questions, even new emotions arising within you.
yeah, growth is an ongoing and dynamic process, a continuous unfolding that can be both challenging at times.
And ultimately deeply liberating and rewarding for you.
So, we leave you with this thought to carry with you.
Mhm.
Perhaps the pain you've been experiencing in your life isn't just a burden to be endured or something to simply get rid of.
But also a really valuable and insightful teacher.
Exactly. Showing you precisely where you might have been holding back, where you've been afraid to be fully present with yourself.
And ultimately, where deeper healing and a more authentic expression of who you are is truly possible for you.
And as you gently release that pain, you are naturally creating space for so much more in your life.
For greater joy, for deeper connection with yourself and others.
And for a more genuine and fulfilling expression of who you truly are.
Think of it perhaps like standing at the edge of that vast ocean we mentioned earlier.
Instead of feeling overwhelmed and trying to fight against the waves, trying to control what is ultimately uncontrollable,
You can start to learn to trust and allow yourself to be carried by them.
trusting in your own innate ability to navigate the currents and the challenges that naturally come your way in life.
This is truly an unfolding journey for you, and each moment really does offer a new opportunity.
For you to cultivate deeper self-awareness, greater presence, and a more compassionate understanding of your own inner world.
So take one more deep breath right now, wherever you are.
Just notice any subtle shifts in your body as you do. Even the smallest change can be a gentle sign.
A sign that you are moving in the direction of greater freedom, wholeness, and a more authentic connection with yourself.
And know that this growing awareness and understanding of yourself might naturally lead to even more questions arising within you.
To a deeper curiosity about your own inner landscape.
And that's a really beautiful and valuable thing. It's a gift that keeps you engaged with your own life, keeps you feeling alive, and keeps you learning and growing.
We truly encourage you to carry this mindful attention with you into your daily life.
Into all of your relationships, and most importantly, into the ongoing and evolving relationship you have with yourself.
Trust that every small step you take in this direction of self-awareness and self-compassion is gently bringing you closer.
Closer to a deeper understanding and a more profound acceptance of your true and whole self.
And please always remember that the pain you have carried with you has been a significant part of your own unique story.
A source of wisdom that you are now beginning to tap into, and ultimately a powerful catalyst for your own personal growth and healing.
So as you move forward from this moment, perhaps consider this for yourself. What will you do, even in small ways, with this newfound awareness you've gained?
How will you choose to honor the journey of self-discovery and healing that you have already begun?
And please know with deep certainty that you are not alone in this.
So many others are walking similar paths, learning to listen more deeply to the wisdom of their own bodies and to embrace their authentic selves with courage and compassion.
Step into this next chapter of your journey with a gentle compassion for yourself.
With a genuine sense of curiosity about what might unfold.
And with a resilient and unwavering sense of hope, trusting in your own body's innate and powerful capacity to heal and to gently guide you forward.
And please always remember, in this moment and in every moment that follows, that you are inherently enough, exactly as you are, no matter where your unique path may gently lead you.